So boom, right? 2022 has been a very good year for lost media. So many discoveries have been made, it's almost hard to keep track of. It's been on my mind a lot recently, and even though I've made lost media videos before, I can't say I'm exactly proud of that last one. A lot of outside elements caused it to be less quality than I would have liked, so I've decided to make my longest lost media video ever, looking over 11 entries that I find more interesting and unknown. Why 11? I used to watch Nostalgia Critic as a kid, and while I don't like him much now, some habits just die hard. Most of you would probably be unfamiliar with Sky, a pretty large cable and internet provider for the UK, but you will recognize many of the properties they managed to snag for their GameStar service. Many are lost now due to the service shutting down in 2015, but today we'll be focusing specifically on the episodic Tomb Raider game released between the Decembers of 02 and 03.
Oh, go on, Lara. Touch me. I rock.
Tomb Raider Apocolypse was released in 4 episodes with an ongoing plot connecting the first 3. The Eye of Osiris is about Lara exploring ancient Egyptian temples so that she can find the Eye, which can communicate between worlds and holds the key to immortality. The Shadow Falls is about Lara trying to find out more about the Eye, which leads her to a multi-story warehouse. And The Last Midnight, which continues on from where episode 2 ended with Lara finding an eerie crypt and needing to traverse it to find the Eye before the world ends at midnight. There was a 4th episode, but it was a completely standalone one titled Temple of Anubis. Anubis is actually the only one that has surviving footage, as the others only have screenshots. Through this we can get an idea of what the games were like, and I'm not gonna lie, I thought the wiki was bullshit when it said it was like Prince of Persia at first. 2D Tomb Raider games had already existed by that point, so it just made more sense that it would take inspiration from those, but no, this is basically Persia Raider. I can't in good faith call it a complete ripoff though. Episode 1 and 4 are the only ones that just straight up look like Persia levels. The rest of them look more original if a bit bare, and they did change the combat to feature gunplay instead of swordplay. Unfortunately, they might have been a bit too ambitious. Just looking at the remote and all the complex controls makes my fingers cramp, and judging by the gameplay footage itself, it looks like a pain in the ass. It is kind of impressive that they even managed this with the limited hardware they were working with though. It's a shame that all the work put into this and all these other GameStar games will likely stay lost unless the developer kept the files. Let me know if you want me to look into this more. I've found some pretty cool and fucking crazy shit already. Jackie Chan is one of the most famous actors of all time. He's loved by many, so like other celebrities, he's appeared in a lot of animation. The most famous example is Jackie Chan Adventures, a show following him and his kayfabe family, but most would be unaware of the 52-episode anime produced in 2009 that also stars Jackie.
Run! Run!
Jackie Chan's Fantasia was produced by Nanjing Hongying Animation and aired in CCTV in China. The original version of the show isn't lost as far as I'm aware, but what is an English dub produced by Red Angel Media for All Rights Entertainment. The dub aired on both Disney Channel Asia and India's Sonic Nickelodeon in 2011. Some promos and ads are available from these airings, but no rips of the episodes appear to be available. There doesn't even appear to be a home media release, but thankfully Synchronized Media has made it so that you can at least partially watch it in English. In 2018, 13 episodes were added to Amazon Plus and eventually Peacock for some reason. These episodes are unfortunately the only official releases of the English dub out there. It's unknown why that is, but I'd best assume it's simply because they didn't think it was something people would care that much about, which could make finding it simply meaning making the company aware that it's something that people would want to see. That might be easier said than done, but I'd be here for it if they did. From the short clips I've seen, the show looks pretty wild. Like, the fucking creator is in it, and he throws hands at some point from what it looks like. It also would be kind of sad to see something that people put the effort into voice acting just kind of be cast aside and locked away. It's not like there aren't recognizable names attached. The same man who voiced Jackie in Adventures voices him here, and Mr. Krabs is even here. This show seems like one of those cases where contacting the right people is all it would take, and seeing how much shit's been found already, I wouldn't be surprised if it got found soon. The Blues Brothers is a classic 80s film starring Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi that got its start as an SNL sketch. They played Jake and Elwood on a mission from God to save the orphanage they grew up in and bring the band back together while doing it. It's a good-ass movie, and it's still loved to this day, so much so that in '97 an animated series started production.
Here's the food, and just for laughs, here's the bill.
Dan sold the rights to the now defunct UPN network, who got Film Roman, the same company behind The Simpsons, to work on it. Unfortunately, the series remains unmade, with some concept art, an animatic of one episode, and an unfinished promo being the only things publicly available. According to a Blues Brothers fan site, more animatics were shown at an event called MIPCON, but aside from that, they remain unreleased. From what has been released, I gotta say, I'm mad disappointed this didn't become a full series. It seems like something I would've caught late night, way past when I should already be asleep. The character designs are appealing to me, and the concept art for the environments looks fucking beautiful. The one episode that is available had a lot of moments that genuinely made me laugh. Even though Dan and John have been replaced in the voices department, their brothers don't make bad replacements at all.
Is that what she thinks? Well, I'm gonna show her there's a lot more to me than she's ever seen.
You're gonna moon her, aren't you?
You bet.
It's sad to see what could have been, because I genuinely enjoy what was done here. Even that unfinished promo is insane, featuring Jake and Elwood fucking running over other network mascots, and them very clearly referring to them by their last names instead of their first seems very intentional to me.
And heading the list of vocal supporters for this project are two names synonymous with the Blues Brothers, Aykroyd and Belushi.
The best we can hope for is that somebody who worked on it still holds the unreleased materials. This sounds unlikely, but with lost media anything can happen. I miss Ape Escape, man. I've never beat any of them, but I keep going back to the PS1 game just because of how appealing its style and characters are. There's something about it that doesn't stop being appealing to me no matter how many times I've had to restart a save. It's even got its own anime, but something lesser known are these CGI shorts from 2004. Produced in collaboration between Sony and Shogakukan, all the Japanese versions of these shorts can be found pretty easily considering they got a DVD release. However, the same can't be said for one out of the 3 segments dubbed for use in the Nicktoons Film Festival. While the first 2 shorts were also initially lost, recordings of their one and only broadcast did pop up eventually. The third, however, doesn't seem to be archived anywhere online. It's strange that they were lost this way, considering that Nickelodeon even mentioned them in their press release.
We're running quite a few Ape Escapes, little 1-minute fun-packed adventures of a boy and his crazy apes. We spend more time describing them, but we spoil the punchlines. Let's just say if you like fart jokes, monkeys, and wacky music, you wouldn't want to let these little shorts get away. All of our Ape Escape shorts were directed by Yorifusa Yamaguchi and come to us from Shogakukan Music and digital entertainment courtesy of Sony Computer Entertainment Incorporated.
But aside from their one airing, they were never seen again. It's most likely in either of these 3 companies' archives, or somebody has a TV recording from its air date too, but just isn't aware of it. This one definitely seems findable as long as the right person is made aware of it. I doubt many of you are familiar with Colonel Bleep, but it's actually an innovator, being the first animated show to air in full color. Over the years, its legacy has mostly been forgotten, simply surviving as a relic of a bygone era where cartoons would have the most insane setups imaginable. Much like its achievements, the show itself has been mostly forgotten, leading to many of its episodes being lost. Only a few home media releases were made, mostly due to the tapes themselves being lost. There's a rumor that after its studio Soundat closed down, all of its materials are being held in a van that later got stolen by car thieves. This doesn't sound that plausible, but nevertheless, most of the master tapes and other material related to Bleep have been lost ever since the company shut down. Some may see this series as not important, but it's literally a part of television history. Quality or not, it's a historic piece of media that barely exists anymore. Up to 104 episodes were produced, but in the end, only 44 of them have been found and released, with apparently more existing but not intact enough to restore. It's not exactly a bad show either. I wouldn't call it high art or anything, but its characters and limited animation are charming, and the narrator is definitely putting it all into his performance.
But Colonel Bleep sees only Squeak's crumpled cowboy hat, Scratch's splintered club, and the monstrous sleeping dragon, which has obviously gulped down the Colonel's beloved deputies for lunch.
I found myself watching way more of this show than I thought I would. It can be genuinely entertaining. The short runtimes of all the episodes makes it easily bingeable. I'd love to see the rest of the episodes be found, but it's very unlikely. Unfortunately, this might be one of those cases that remains lost forever. The Blob is one of those franchises I enjoyed from the moment I saw it as a kid. I didn't actually get to play any of them until high school, but the second child me actually saw the premise of the game, he was hooked. The games captured my imagination so much that even though it took me years to actually be able to play them, I still thought about them up until then. I always wondered why the series seemed to disappear after the second entry. Only later did I become aware of its owners filing for bankruptcy in 2012, leaving it and many other series in limbo until THQ Nordic became a thing. However, before their tragic downfall, plans were in motion to turn the Blob into a multimedia franchise. A TV show was planned during the Blob 2's development, but the most interesting thing to me out of this is an online game that would have been exclusive to Asian markets. The Blob Online was going to be developed by Balanced Worlds and not Blue Tongue Studios like the previous two games. The gameplay is said to be similar to the Blob 2, but with multiplayer features like character customization, online communities, PvP, items, and skills. But when just looking at how the characters move in the one pitch trailer we have, it doesn't look like it would feel that much like the second game. Although this is simply a pitch trailer and probably not exactly what the full game would be like. Speaking of which, according to Reinhard Paulus, the game was pretty far in development by the time THQ went under, causing the couple of millions they pumped into it to be basically wasted since it wasn't that far off from its soft launch. This and that WWE Online game that was also only for Asian markets for some fucking reason probably didn't help their money troubles at the time. There doesn't seem to be any implication that the build was lost at all when they went defunct, so the build is probably with THQ Nordic at this time. I doubt any type of big leak will happen soon, so the only remnants we have is the pitch trailer I mentioned earlier. That was uploaded by former THQ employee Richard Brown. The full version is unlisted on YouTube, so I'll leave a link for anybody who wants to see what could have been. It looks fun, all things considered, although we probably wouldn't have gotten a chance to play it still anyway. Opus and the comic strip he spins off from, Bloom County, isn't something I'm familiar with at all. I only became aware of any of this recently when I found this article on the wiki. But after looking at the story behind this movie, it's become something I'm really interested in. Opus himself is a penguin created by Berkeley Breeze for the comic strip Bloom County, Outland, and his own self-titled comic strip. Lil Dude was so popular in 2001, Storyopolis sold the film rights to Dimension Films, a sub-label of Miramax as part of a production deal. In the beginning, Berkeley was attached to write and direct, even changing the design of Opus's eyes to better fit 3D animation, a design he still uses even though it all fell through. This would be far off though, as in 2004, Miramax struck a deal with Wildbrain to collaborate on animated movies, with Opus being announced as the first product of this new venture. It would also later be revealed that this would be a standalone Opus movie instead of an adaptation of Bloom County itself. This wasn't meant to last though, as in 2005 the Weinstein brothers would split from Miramax, taking the Opus IP with them and ending the partnership. They then rebooted the project in 2006 as a Christmas movie, even setting up Tuxedo Films to help with production. Retitled Opus The Last Christmas, this version would have been about Opus getting stranded on the North Pole and being tricked by Krampus into installing a new pole that allows him to take over. Afterwards, Opus must go on a journey to stop Krampus and right his wrong. The film had a release date set for December 19, 2008, but unfortunately this version wasn't meant to be either. The filmmakers struggled with the treatment they were provided, and even after Berkeley stepped in and wrote one they enjoyed much more, the relationship between Berkeley and the Weinsteins only worsened over time. The breaking point came when they suggested Opus shouldn't speak to humans as it would confuse the audience. After feeling the Weinsteins didn't trust him enough to adapt his own character and that they simply wanted to make the cheapest film they could, he backed out of the film's development entirely. And with nobody satisfied by the time the deadline was up, it was finally cancelled, ending its years of troubled development. All that exists from the film's various versions are concept art and animation tests shared by Berkeley himself. While in the end, I'm happy that instead of going forward with the Weinstein's changes, he stood his ground on not changing his character. Looking at what's available kinda makes me wish this film still got made, but in his vision. The art and tests are appealing. The whole evil North Pole thing sounds stupid as fuck in concept, but in execution it's pretty sick, not gonna lie. If the movie was made the way he wanted, this could have been something really special. I mean, just look at this Krampus design. It's not all bad though. While the Weinstein still had a stranglehold on the property, the 2017 allegations against those pieces of shit meant that the company went under and the property went to its successor, Spyglass Media, with Miramax still holding some stake in it. Because of this, it was announced in February of this year that Berkeley and the two companies would be collaborating to produce a Bloom County TV series with Opus as one of the main characters. So even though it took a lot of time and frustration, hopefully it would all work out in the end for Berkeley and his little bastard. Many of the American viewers may be unfamiliar with The Amazing 3, but you will be with its creator, Osamu Tezuka. He's a legend in the manga and anime industry, with his most popular creation being Astro Boy. A lesser known creation of his is The Amazing 3, a series about 3 aliens sent to Earth as animals in order to determine if it should be destroyed due to its various wars. They befriend a boy along the way and slowly start to change their view on humans as the series goes on. Much like Ape Escape, the Japanese version, it's not what's become lost, but a majority of the English dub is what is. It was said to be aired from 1967 to 1970 on both K-Cop TV and WPix TV in America, but only 30 of the 52 episodes have been found since. It used to be even less than that, with only a now deleted Uncle Sporkman's video with a 2-second clip of Captain Bunny greeting the audience. He said he found it on an old website, and even though he rediscovered said site, forgot the address. It sounds like cap to me, but nevertheless, the video was deleted for this reason, and it was believed even the identities of the voice actors were lost to time. This would prove untrue though, as Andy Shepard would discover that they were local actors from Miami's Little Theater. Rumors spread that the original film was destroyed or lost, but this also proved untrue, as in 2008, 12 of the original negatives sold for $24,000 in an eBay auction. From then on, more have been found, with the biggest developments coming from 2019 to 2020, with many episodes being found by rare Tezuka vids and wiki user Insulting Iguana, resulting in more than half of the series being available. At the rate these have been found, the whole series very well could be found soon. It may seem very unimportant, but I don't know. Looking at the comments under these vids, you see elderly people excited to finally see the show again and sharing memories. It's easy to write this off as a dub of a mostly unknown anime, but imagine if a show that meant something to you just disappeared and couldn't be found anymore. It makes me wonder if it's okay to judge certain pieces of lost media just because it's something that doesn't mean anything to you. Also, like many other dubs, this shit is just funny sometimes.
Wait, I got another fish I want you to sample. I try so hard, but nobody appreciates me. I'm a pitiful failure.
I was always interested in TV shows about video games. I didn't have G4 on my TV as a kid and only learned of stuff like this when Toonami came back. Looking back, I realized how much a child who was not good at using the internet but loved video games would have appreciated these. They've taken many forms over the years in many territories, but seeing how many would find this content less important than others, much can become lost. One of these happens to be PXG, a video game magazine show from Jetix UK that aired from 2005 to 2008. PXG was created by Prism Entertainment and gets its name from the 3 main consoles at the time: PlayStation 2, GameCube, and Xbox. Later on, the name would begin to make less sense as the next generation release, but its purpose was kept the same. Starting as 2-minute interstitials between shows that would be compiled into a full show on Friday, PXG would cover reviews, hints, tips, and cheats from the latest games of the time. Different segments would air on different days. The original format featured Big in Japan on Mondays, a segment covering the most popular games in Japan in that moment. Mobile Madness on Tuesday, covering handheld games and accessories. Console Kids on Wednesday, focusing on the 3 biggest consoles of the time in the form of a game show, which was changed to a more simple format later on. Easy PC on Thursday, which featured 1 review of a PC game and then a few games that were free to play. And both Top of the Chops and PXG Friday on, well, Friday. Chops would feature 5 popular games and answer the questions asked earlier in the week, while PXG Friday would compile all the previous segments into one full show with previews of upcoming games, gaming-related humor, and mid-2000s cosplay added on. The format even changed later on, with some segments being moved around and even featuring content from Jetix viewers themselves. With that, you'd probably think there isn't much to actually be found. But you'd be wrong, as only a few videos can be found today, which is kinda sad. There were 2 directors, a host, and even a virtual assistant called Game Girl voiced by Noodle from Gorillaz. It genuinely seems like there was real effort placed into this and it wasn't just some cheap throwaway thing. It made even more evident by Nintendo legitimately partnering with them to broadcast its All-Stars tour, but even material related to this seems mostly lost. Not even the Prism website mentions its existence in any way. It almost feels like a conspiracy to cover this up. It being a niche show created for one market is definitely the real reason though. Although since this show did come out well into the era of TV recordings, maybe this also might just depend on the right people looking through their collections. Because if gaming in the Clinton years is fully uploaded, this deserves to be too.
We have a challenge to IDOS. In Tomb Raider 3, create a storyline in which Lara gets breast cancer.
Rocky and Bullwinkle is one of those classic franchises that seems to have disappeared over time, but always had a strange appeal to me. There was never one I got to see much of, but I genuinely enjoyed it whenever I could catch the parts I could. I also really enjoy obscure YouTube channels. The low budget but high effort feel has always been something I could enjoy, which is also how Rocky and Bullwinkle ends up feeling. I mention this because this next piece of lost media was actually introduced to me by one of these smaller channels. I doubt many of you watched Shroom 2 back in the day, but his Lost Media series was some real comfortable shit to watch back in his era. One of the pieces he covered before deleting his channels were the Bullwinkle puppet segments from the Bullwinkle show. And despite what you might think from the title, no, this wasn't a spin-off purely featuring Bullwinkle. It was simply common practice back then to rename shows, either when a certain character became the most popular, or to just keep it seeming fresh. Adding on to this were the puppet segments, featuring a Bullwinkle hand puppet that would host the show and read fan mail while in general being Bullwinkle. There was even a controversy related to these segments, where Bullwinkle suggested viewers to remove the knobs from the TV so that they would never miss an episode.
First, a message for all you kids who are watching. Did you know that the knobs on your television set will come off if you pull on them? Right now, why not pull off the knob that changes the channels? It's loads of fun, and that way you'll be sure to be with us next week. And the week after that, and the week after that, and the week after that.
Obviously, kids are fucking stupid sometimes, and around 20,000 kids legitimately did this, prompting the next episode to feature a segment where he told them to glue them back on. You might think this is what's caused the segments to become lost, but in actuality it has more to do with the same reasons they exist to begin with. With the constant changing of the series format, they were just naturally lost over time, and while a few have been released on DVD, there are definitely more that have been lost. Maybe forever, just like Shroom2 himself, or maybe Universal doesn't care enough to look. The Super Mario Bros. Super Show and its sequels is such an interesting oddity to me. Seeing the early interpretations of the Mario lore and generally crazy shit they put in these shows keeps me coming back. One element that definitely adds to this are the live action segments, featuring Danny Wells from the Jeffersons as Luigi and Captain fucking Lou Albano from the WWF as Mario.
And if you do drugs, you go to hell before you die. Please.
They provided many strange moments that can be very entertaining, but in 1990 they were temporarily replaced by Club Mario.
Mario.
Grab your bottles onto your head. Satellite surfing is where it's at.
This featured Mario obsessed teenagers named Tommy Treehugger and Cohen C, which no, isn't a title, that's legit just his name. They fucked around for the most part, and while some parts are funny, it's definitely not for the reasons they wanted it to be. Needless to say, these were never gonna be as liked as the actual segments featuring the Mario Brothers. The target audience's dislike of it being the main reason Club Mario was eventually dropped, and most of its master tapes were wiped, besides the only episode released on home media. Over the years, more and more episodes would be found and uploaded. 13 episodes were found in 2016, while in 2022 the channel Rabbit Filmmaker TV uploaded 23 more, leaving 29 of the 65 remaining lost. This series could go either way in my eyes. The master tapes are definitely lost, but with how many home recordings have been found already, more could be out there. This show definitely feels awkward and forced, but it's got its moments. And still, it feels very fucked that the tapes got wiped because they threw these segments into a slot they were never going to work in. And so it'd be nice just to not see the work go completely to waste. I gotta say, the more and more I look into lost media, I gain even more respect for certain forms of content. They say you never know what you have till it's gone, and nothing exemplifies that more than seeing how much hard work can be poured into something, just for it to be lost because of some bullshit. But the lost media community is a light of hope that constantly breathes new life into forgotten projects and forgotten oddities. I can't say I'll ever really tire of it. I'd love to tease what's coming next, but the next script I'm working on is very long, and while I do have plans to release stuff in between then, I don't want to make another promise I can't keep. I do want to address the Bomberman retrospective though. I've been holding off of it due to technical reasons, but I was genuinely thinking about coming back to it because I was missing making them. But then my Xbox One decided to black screen on me, so lost act super hard and the up. Salutations from the future, or I guess technically the past in your case. I'm interrupting because what I just said in the video isn't exactly as accurate as it used to be. My brother recently handed me down one of his Xbox Ones, so now that problem is completely finished. I can't promise anything soon because I've already started working on other things, but much like a lot of videos that I want to make in 2021, it's definitely something I'm making in 2022. Yeah, my dumbass said the wrong year, so it's supposed to be 2022 going into 2023, my bad. In the meantime, I'm thinking about redoing some older videos while working on these newer ones, cause I don't know what the fuck I was doing with some of these thumbnails. But I'ma see you niggas next time.